Hey guys, this is Elizabeth from the Missionaries of God to Love in Tustin, California, and today we're going to talk about what does it mean to surrender to God? The last time we spoke about surrendering to God, we spoke about one of the three barriers that we face that stops us from surrendering to God. Again, the three barriers are fear, pride, and confusion. Today, we're going to talk about the third one, confusion. Many of the times, people don't know what it means to surrender to God. They're just confused. They're like, what? I've never heard about that. I've never even thought about that. Surrendering to God? And so people are confused at what it is. Many of the times, they confuse surrendering to God with passive resignation. Some also think that surrendering to God is just for cowards, for doormats, for people to just be stepped on. They might think that if you surrender to God, that you give up all your rationality and you're not going to ever think again or think for yourself again. Or they think that it's an excuse for laziness, or it's just accepting the status quo. But really, all of this are misunderstandings of what surrendering to God truly is. Because when God asks us to surrender to Him, it doesn't mean that we're never going to think again. He's not going to waste the mind that He gave us so that we just obey Him and surrender to Him and never use our brains again. And no, surrendering to God does not mean you're going to give up who you are and your personality. It doesn't mean that you're going to be suppressing yourself. On the contrary, the book Purpose Driven Life tells us God wants to use your unique personality. Rather than being diminished, surrendering enhances it. And I love this quote that the book shares with us. C.S. Lewis observed, "The more we let God take us over, the more truly ourselves we become. Because He made us. He invented all the different people that you and I were intended to be. It is when I turn to Christ, when I give up myself to His personality, that I first begin to have a real personality of my own." I completely relate with this quote. Before I walked with God and before I even knew God, I was totally lost. I was trying to find who I was and who I was going to be. I was doing whatever I wanted to do, and I was following what the world was doing. But the more I did that, the more I listened to myself and the world, the more I lost myself. Naturally, the more I hurt myself too, and those around me. It wasn't until I found God and I surrendered myself to Him, I gave my life to Him. It wasn't until then that I started to discover who I was. Before, I had absolutely no idea, and I wasn't going in a right direction either. But now that I have God in my life, now that I know that He loves me, and I'm trying to surrender to Him daily, which is a challenge, I'm now discovering more about me, and I'm finding my happiness in Him, in Jesus. And it's honestly such an extremely beautiful journey. I'm excited to discover more about myself, to discover more what God has in store for me in my life. And I'm so excited to do it with Him. As C.S. Lewis said it perfectly, God invented us. God created you and me. Who else will know us better? Who else will know who we truly are meant to be and who we are than God? It makes a lot of sense to me that seeking for God to discover who we are and what our purpose in life is, that makes total sense to me. Like, yeah, He is our creator. I bet He knows what I'm supposed to be and what my purpose is. So we notice that surrendering to God is actually something more beautiful than we think. And I want to share with you guys more concrete definitions so you guys can have of what it means to surrender to God. Surrendering to God means to leave the decisions of your life to God. To give the control of your life to God. The present and to accept anything that happens to me beyond my control. To totally trust in God's love and providence for my life. So those are some definitions of what it means to surrender to God. And we know that we're surrendering to God when we're obeying Him. When we're saying yes to God, regardless of whatever He asks us to do. And that even means obeying God when it doesn't make sense to us. Sometimes God asks us to do something or to speak to people, and we're like, what? Why? How? It doesn't make any sense to me. Why should I do that? What benefit will there be? Or what if I face challenges? What if there's an obstacle? What if this happens or that? But when we put those questions aside, when we put understanding the situation first aside, and when we put obeying God and surrendering to God first, and when we put obeying God first, then we will know that we're truly surrendering to Him. It's like we're telling God, God, I don't know what you want me to do, and I don't even know why, or I don't even know why you're asking me to do this, but I trust you, and I'm going to obey you, and I'm going to do it. That is a sign of you surrendering to God. Another way you know that you're surrendering to God is by trusting God. Again, we might not know why or how or when God wants us to do certain things in our lives, but as long as we trust Him, and we trust that God's timing is the right time, or how God wants us to do something is the right way to do it, or even why we should be doing something, or even why we're going through something, and trusting that, you know what, God knows best, then that is a sure sign that we are surrendering to Him. The book shares with us, you know you're surrendered. You know you're surrendered to God when you rely on God to work things out. Instead of trying to manipulate others, force your agenda, and control the situation, you let go and let God work. You don't always have to be in charge. It continues to read, instead of trying harder, you trust more. You also know you're surrendered when you don't react to criticism and rush to defend yourself. Surrendered hearts show best in relationships. Oof. The book couldn't have said it more perfectly. And one point that I want to bring out is how many of the times when we're being criticized, we rush to defend ourselves. We're like, whoa, it didn't happen like that. I said this, or I did that, or I meant to do this. We always want to be right. We don't want to look wrong, or we don't want to make a mistake. But we know that we surrender to God, and we no longer care about those criticisms. We no longer care about what people think about us or say about us. Like, that doesn't matter. I know what happened, and God knows what happened. And I just trust what God wants to do with this situation. I trust in Him. I surrender to Him. And you know, another example where people really struggle to surrender to God, when it has to do with money. A lot of people say that they want to live for God, and they want to surrender to God, but they also want to have enough money to live a comfortable life and to retire. But when we do that, we run the big risk of prioritizing, worshiping, and even surrendering to money, as money can become like our God, the center of our lives. But Jesus once told us that we cannot serve two masters at once. If we try to do that, we're going to let down one of the masters and obey the other one. Most of the times when people try to worship both money and God, or try to have money and God be their masters, most of the times money wins. And God isn't the center of our lives anymore. He isn't our number one. And this is where we have to decide who we're going to obey and what we're going to do. Jesus gave us the ultimate example of surrendering to God by dying on the cross for us. And before He died on the cross, before that all started to happen, He prayed to God and He said, God, please take this cup of suffering away from me. take this chalice away from me. But if it is your will, let it be done. I seek for your will. I want your will to be done and not mine. Now that is a really big example of surrendering to God. As Jesus was about to do something extremely painful, excruciatingly painful. And instead of just asking God, God, take this away from me. I don't want this. I don't want the pain. And ending his prayer there. Instead, he ended his prayer by saying, if it is your will, Lord, may it be done. I leave you guys with this. Whenever you pray to God for something, feel free to ask what you want, what you wish to have, but always end your prayer with, but only if it is your will, Lord. May your will be done unto my life. I invite you guys to continue meditating on this topic and tell God, speak to me, O Lord, for your servant is listening.